Good afternoon from the farmer's garden. I'm one of the farmers. I'm fixing to reload the incubator, and I thought this would be a good time to tell everybody about our process. So I try to keep the incubator loaded. I try to load it once every week or two just to kind of keep a steady flow of chicks. Our routine has gotten a little goofed up this spring, so I'm not quite on track with that, but I just moved some chicks or some eggs down to the bottom tray to hatch, and so now I'm reloading. I'm going to try to show y'all that process. So today is March the 24th, I think, March 24th, and so in about 3 weeks we'll get to finish this video. There may be a couple in between, but for sure in 3 weeks you'll see the end result of this. So this is the incubator we've been using. This is actually my mother-in-law's incubator, but she lets us use it, so that's the model. That's everything set up with it. So the way this one works, we've got trays and shelves, and then we've got a hatching tray in the bottom. So we try to load one shelf per week, and that way there's about a week between when they need to come down in the hatching tray. You cannot load all the trays and hatch them all in here. You would have to have a separate incubator to be able to hatch all of these at once, because there's just not room in this bottom tray for all the eggs to hatch. I think officially it says 70 something eggs, but I have done up to 80 in it. I think it would depend on like goose eggs versus quail eggs versus whatever as far as what would fit in there. So I've done about 80 in there before, but we try to keep it for sure only one shelf of eggs at a time. So what we're going to do, we've got all of these eggs, and I've a little bit lost track of time, so not all of these will be fertile. This is my culls out of what I just put in. So you can see when I lose track, I do lose some of them that just don't hatch, they don't develop. But what we're going to do is we're just going to take all of these eggs and gently put them into this and have it ready to go on the shelf. Okay, so we had 92 eggs to go in today. I think these hold 96 eggs total. Our eggs are slightly larger than these trays are made for, so they don't always sit down in there really good, but I've never had one fall out once I get it in there. So we'll put these in, and then the other thing is each of these shelves, this has an automatic turner in it, so the shelves will actually tilt way this way, and then it'll beep and they'll tilt way this way. So what that does is, just like when the chicken is sitting on her eggs, she would normally just reach under and kind of turn them around a little bit to keep them warm all the way around. The turner does the same thing. We also put all of ours in pointy and down. That puts the air bubble on the top, and that allows me to candle them more easily later on. I don't do a whole lot of candling just because I'm not real skilled with it, and so there's not really a point in it. But I do try at the end to go through, and like you can see light through all of these. So since these should be hatching already, I can tell that these are not going to hatch. There's obviously too much light for there to be a chick in there. So that's pretty much all I do, is just one good candling at the end and pull out anything that I don't think is going to hatch. So that's all there is to it for today, and now we just wait. They just stay in their incubator and cook for 3 weeks, and I'll move them down on roughly day 18 so that they're moved down into that tray before anybody starts to pip. What we try not to do is open the incubator while they're hatching, because we try to keep the humidity and everything just perfect in there while that process is happening. Okay, it is April 11th. I started these eggs on March 24th, I think. I'm going to double check my calendar for that. I'm pretty sure it was March 24th. Yeah, and so I'm going to continue the process for these today. For the last 2.5 weeks, these have just been hanging out in the incubator. There's not a whole lot I have to do. Make sure that there's water in it so that the humidity stays right, and make sure that it's powered up and working. That's about all there is to it in the in-between times. So these are day 18 now, and so I'm going to move them from their shelf, their tray, and put them down in the bottom so that they can start to hatch safely without falling through the shelf. Okay, I don't really candle these correctly at the end, but I do kind of like to check and make sure that they have developed. So this one you can see, actually this one appears to have started and not finished. Hold on. Gotta get it where I can hold it correctly. Basically what I'm looking at is how full the egg is. So you can see the lightest ring at the bottom would be the air sac. The ring above that would be, that should be full. So this one appears to have started and not finished. A lot of times with these, just because I don't think it's gonna hurt anything, I go ahead and put them in just in case I'm wrong. I would rather not kill one that's just not finished developing. So I usually go ahead and put that one in. But then I watch, like this one didn't start at all. You can see light all the way through that egg. So that one would be a cull. And I think I told y'all when I started these that I had lost track of how old some of them were. So see, that one is more full. So we have just the air sac on the top, and then everything else is full of chick. And it's really hard to show this. Sometimes you can get them and you can see well enough to see that they're moving and all of those things. Anyways, when I started these, they had gotten away from me. Oh, I saw movement in that one. I don't know if you can. I wasn't sure exactly how old some of them were, and so I started them knowing that they might not all hatch. So I'm really not surprised to find that there are some that don't appear to have finished developing and some that don't. Like that one didn't do anything. So we're going to take that one out. It's not working. Anyways, I'm just going to keep checking all of these. We're looking for, we want an air bubble at the top and then the rest of it to be full of chick. When you candle, you can be very precise and like really look in there and really study what's there. This is really my down and dirty method when I'm just looking for that air pocket at the top. This is just the very simple method that I use. You can get very precise with it. I don't. Alright, so I did have quite a few culls in this batch, more than I normally do. So culls being the ones that I showed you that didn't have any visible development in them. But again, these, I had lost track of how long I had them, so I knew I would have some in there that would be no good. So I'm not surprised by that at all. But I've got 70 something here to hatch. So all I'm going to do now is put this box, which I'll need both hands to do, but I'll put the box back in here at the bottom, and it sits down there so that the chicks have room to hatch without the risk of falling from these trays up here. So they'll go back in, and then hopefully we'll have a good full hatch by Saturday, I think is the day, or Sunday. So that's all there is to it for now. I just have to leave these in here to finish baking, and they'll hatch. I usually come and check it every day just to make sure that I know when they start to hatch. I don't like to leave them in the incubator too long. In fact, I tend to err on the side of pulling them out early, and we may lose those last chicks that might have hatched a few hours late. But I would rather get them out early, get them food, water, all those things. So now they're just sitting here waiting until they hatch. All right, I am on my way to take chicks out of the incubator. I have not been as good at checking it in between this time as I normally am. Just kind of letting whoever wants to hatch, I guess. But I hear peeping and scuttling. There's not much I can show you until I pull the tray out. But it is Sunday now, April 14th, I think. So I'm going to take these out and show y'all what we got. Just as a reminder, we moved these down on Thursday. They hatch in this part so that they're not falling out of these trays to land down here. So you can kind of see them in there. It's a little hard to see through the glass though. So there we go. These have all hatched. We'll take them out and count them. Occasionally, when I get to this point and I pull them out, there will be an egg that is still pipping or trying to hatch. Sometimes I put those back in, sometimes I don't. These two did not do anything, so I'm guessing those are some that had started and not finished. They feel kind of lightweight. This one you can see tried, but there's no movement now. So for whatever reason, this one just did not finish, and that little guy is gone. I always hate to find those, but it is kind of part of the process, and you have to remember that even the mama chicken, if she had been allowed to hatch these, would not have probably hatched a full set. So I'll count these and get them moved over to the brooder. Alright, I got 63 live babies. There is one that hatched and died, one that died hatching, and there's one more actually still trying to hatch that is still alive, so I'm going to let it stay in there till in the morning. Normally those latecomers don't actually hatch and survive very well. But there's 63 here. Obviously this is too small a container for them, so I'm going to move them to the brooder pretty fast. Alright, I'm pretty sure I've gone over our brooder setup before, but since this whole video is about hatching chicks, I'm going to go over it again. You're going to have to ignore my mess. I have been so busy with other things, I haven't scooped under it recently. I never designed this brooder to be inside a building, but this has worked really well, so we haven't moved it. But I normally scoop under it every couple of days, and it's just been crazy. So I'm about to get that clean, but for right now, just ignore that part. So what we've got is, this whole box is 2 by 4, so 2 feet wide, 4 feet long. We've got the solid on the bottom that keeps anything from attempting to crawl out. It keeps the cats and everything from being less interested. The open at the top, I feel like gets the more airflow, keeps that part better. And then the open top, same thing, airflow, and then the heat lamp being able to shine either straight down or across, whichever one works better. Then we have the hardware cloth on the bottom. That allows all the poop and everything to fall through. And you can see on the 3 brace boards, there's quite a bit of poop collected, but obviously it's letting most of it go through underneath. So we keep water and food. These ladies are about a week old. I need to refill that feeder, but we're going to get the rest of these in here. They're ready to get out of their cramped quarters. Okay, so temperature-wise, remember that in nature, the hen would set on the eggs until they hatched, and then she's going to kind of stay over them until they're all dry and fluffy. She's not going to just get up and walk away when they're still wet, but these are all nice and dry and fluffy. But then she would stay close enough that at any point, if the chicks got cool, she could kind of huddle over them again. And so we try to keep this at, I think 95 is what they recommend for like the first hour, or not the first hour, the first day. I don't know that mine's 95. I'm not really sure what they recommend. I always just keep the 1 heat lamp on them, and it seems to work well. This is what I do. I watch for chicks to be moving. I'm going to show you these older ones because these are all just kind of nervous right now. But I watch for them to be moving around. So I want them hopping around. I don't want them actually making a whole lot of noise. The cheeping is fine, but I don't want them to start going cheep, 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 cheep. When it gets real rhythmic like that, that's a sign of stress. So I want them to just kind of cheep and twitter and make individual sounds and not synchronized cheeping, because that's usually a sign of stress. If your chicks are either all huddled in a ball like this, again, these just got in here, they're kind of stressed. If they're all huddled like this, they're too cold. If they're all spread out and laying like pancake flat against the bottom of the brooder, they're too hot. So just kind of keep an eye on them and pay attention. If they're all pancake flat on the bottom of the brooder, real spread out, that means they're too hot. And if they're all huddled in a heap, they're too cold. So just make adjustments for that. But I'm going to leave these alone. They've got food, they've got water. So I'm just going to let them settle into their place here now. So aside from the time we moved a chicken pen and it took us like 3 months to get it finished, this might be the longest time span on a video. It is 21 days from the time you put the eggs into the incubator until the time they hatch. Again, the eggs that we hatched for this round had been collected probably over about 3 weeks, just because I kind of lost track of time. I normally try to keep them about 10 to 14 days old or less to incubate them. We did lose some of them due to the age. We had more that didn't hatch this time, percentage wise, than we would normally see, but we did get 63, and that's plenty. So if you're interested in any of these chicks, if you think it's cool that you got to watch the whole process and you'd like to buy some of these, they're going to be for sale. They're $3 a chick. They are sold as straight run chicks. What that means is there's males and females together. There are some ways to tell males and females apart. I'm not good at any of those, so I'm not going to even attempt to do that to sell them I don't want you to think you're getting just females or just males or whatever. They're straight run only. And again, they're mixed breeds. They should lay lots of colorful eggs. And these have been some really hardy chickens for us. So that's good to know as well. Anyways, I hope you learned a little bit of something about incubating chicks. I hope you enjoyed the video. Y'all be sure and tell your friends about our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook if you're not already. And come back when you can stay longer.